Okay, everyone, we are now live. Dwight, I will pass it over to you.
Thanks, Brittany. Welcome, everybody. Brittany, would you please take the roll call, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate that you are present for the record. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
Present.
Oh, Carol, we're getting some feedback. So everyone, if you could just ensure that your mics are muted. Okay, Councillor Carol Barfoot is present. Okay. Councillor Paul Sutherland.
Here.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
Present.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
Present.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
Present.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
Present.
Everyone is accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda. Approval of agenda. Is there any add-ons to your agenda today? Cassie?
Sorry, I forgot to raise my hand on the thing, not just on my video. Under new business, I would like to add a discussion about dogs tags, please.
Thank you. Is there any other items?
Mr. Mayor, I have an addition. We will be adding a minutes of a meeting regarding the Davenport application. We will add those minutes to consideration when we get to that report. They were circulated to council members this afternoon as well as uploaded to the Township website.
Thank you. Do I have any other add-ons to the agenda here today? Seeing none, I have a recommendation that the agenda be approved as presented. Do I have somebody to move it, please?
So that was moved by Councillor Kathy Coburn and seconded by Deputy Mayor Carlton.
Okay, please call the vote, Brittany.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against adoption of the agenda as amended with our additions. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Thanks. Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thanks, Brittany. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest you can declare anytime you see fit during the meeting? Minutes of previous minutes. A recommendation that the minutes of the special call meeting held on April 20th, 2020 be adopted. Do I have someone to move the motion, please?
Also move.
Moved by Councillor Thompson, second by?
That was seconded by Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
Brittany, I seem to have a problem with my hands. I cannot.
That's okay, I'll stay on top of the hands for you.
Do we have a seconder?
Councillor Coburn seconded that motion.
Okay, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against adoption of the minutes as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on, that the minutes of the council meeting held on May 20th, 2020 be adopted. Do I have a mover, please?
Okay, that was moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton.
Second by?
Seconded by Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
Thank you. Please take the vote.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot, I will ask that you please mute your second device. I think that's where the feedback is coming from. Councillor Carol Barfoot? Councillor Barfoot, are you for or against the motion? Councillor Paul Sutherland?
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn?
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson?
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle?
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton?
4.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Okay, Councillor Carol Barfoot, are you for or against the motion?
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. I have another recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting held on May 26, 2020 be adopted. Do we have somebody to move the motion, please? Do I have a mover?
That was moved by Councillor Pringle and seconded by Councillor Coburn.
Okay. Would the clerk please take the vote?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot?
4.
Councillor Paul Sutherland?
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn?
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson?
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle?
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton?
4.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on for agenda, we are down to announcements. I have one announcement. I would like to wish the treasurer happy birthday today.
Thanks,
Happy
Dwight.
birthday, Kathy.
Now, if any council member would like to sing to her, now would be the time to do it. I will not. If there's no other announcements, we'll move on to the agenda. With no public hearings, no presentations, no delegations, we're down to the consent agenda. Is there any item on the consent agenda that the council member would like pulled off for further discussion? Kathy, you have your hand up.
I just had probably a fairly quick question for Cassie under the accounts.
We'd have to pull whatever one you want, Kathy, to have the discussion.
9.1 accounts. You want to know which specific line that I'm referring to? Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, well, as long as we know you have an item, and it's 9.1, but which item?
That
I'm
is
not
the
sure
agenda
I under-
item that will be pulled. 9.1 is the accounts.
So what is the agenda item, Kathy?
9.1 accounts.
You're not pulling the whole account. You want to pull one specific item, do you not?
Yes.
What is that item number?
So Dwight, in order for an item to be pulled, we have to pull the entire accounts to have a conversation regardless of the item number on the accounts. So we'll pull item 9.1 and then facilitate Kathy's question.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a recommendation then. The Council of Towns of Georgian and Bluffs adopt a council agenda as circulated, less items 9.1, and the staff be directed to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Do I have a mover to put it on the floor, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Pringle. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot. Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Councillor Carol Barfoot. Councillor Carol Barfoot, are you for or against the motion?
For, and I'm unmuted, but.
So Councillor Barfoot, I think the feedback issues are coming from your second device. So that being your iPad or your laptop.
Should she be turning her speaker off on one of them?
So we'll move on with our agenda for now. Councillor Coburn, if you'd like to speak to your the accounts, please.
Thanks, Brittany. Just a quick question, Cassie. This is in regards to the legal consult fee regarding the bylaw dispute in the neighborhood of $1,900, I think. It was just a question about approval of that kind of spending, and this is just for my own information. When we seek a legal consult for this type of matter, does that have to come before council for approval, or is it senior staff that make the decision to move forward with that kind of consult?
So senior staff make the decision to move forward with the consult. We have certain lawyers that we use for certain topics. So in a bylaw matter, we do use Middleborough Stevens. So then what happens is they consult the lawyer. When the invoice comes in, I give it to that senior management or department head or manager to review to make sure that the invoice is reasonable.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Coburn. Okay, good. So we'll move on for agenda then. We're down to correspondence. We have none. Down to committee reports. We have none. We're down to staff reports. I have a recommendation that the report from Cassie Rocca, Director of Finance, regarding the 2020 operating and capital budget be received, and that Council of Township of Georgian and Bluffs approve the changes to the 2020 draft budget as outlined in the report, and that Council direct staff to present the 2020 sums required by law, operating and capital budgets at the 2020 tax rates by law for approval at the Council meeting on June 17th, 2020. Cassandra, would you like to speak to your report?
Yes, please. Thank you. So to bring back the budget, I decided the most straightforward and easiest way.
Sorry, Cassandra. I should have asked for a mover and a seconder.
Oh, sorry.
Before. Sorry. Would someone please move the motion? Moved by Councillor Coburn, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Okay, now it's on the floor. Sorry, Cassie.
Oh, no, sorry. So to look at this budget again, I decided that the most straightforward way to do this would be to start with our draft budget that was presented back in January and work with changes off of that. Back in January, Council didn't really direct a ton of changes to the draft budget. There was a few topics that you wanted more information on, but really we weren't looking at a ton of changes. So that is our starting point, and we attached all those documents from the January budget meeting for your review. For basis on for your review for a refresher. So if you have any other questions about that starting point, feel free to ask, but it is everything we went through in January. So then what I did was I changed for things we know for sure. Due to COVID, there's a lot of unknowns. So I tried to do a conservative budget in knowing that there's still a lot of things that we don't know how it's going to play out and what it's going to look like a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road. So just to talk about a few of the topics in the report and highlight a few things that I think are important to council. We'll start with the airport. So as part of the budget discussions back in January, it was directed that the blower repairs needed to be funded from the footprint that was already presented for the airport budget. So this is what we've done, is we've included the blower repairs in this budget and took out the zero-turn lawnmower and planning studies to make up for the costs. The other thing that has occurred since January is we have a vacant airport manager position, and council directed to hire Lumex to run the airport for a 6-month period. We've been unable to have our airport public meeting to discuss the future of the airport. So what I have done to be conservative is included the airport management contract costs till the end of the year, because they do cost more than an airport manager. And I've removed the airport manager position from the budget. If you choose to recruit for an airport manager position before the end of the year, we have more than sufficient funds in the budget to do that. So I'm in no way saying we're extending the management contract to the end of the year. We're just budgeting for it in case that is the route that council chooses to take. The other big change is we've taken out scheduled service. With COVID, we never got the opportunity to discuss it. And there's a lot of travel restrictions in place anyway. So we've removed that from the budget for 2020. Does anybody have any questions on the airport before I move on?
Council, any questions to date? See no hands up. Cassie, go ahead.
Okay, so let's continue on to Georgian Bluffs. Again, I tried to only adjust for things that we know for certain. There's a lot of what ifs. So going through what I've adjusted, our director of operations did put out a 1-ton truck RFP, and we did find some savings there. So I've adjusted the capital budget for that. To help reduce or offset the tax levy for 2020, we're going to use more gas tax funds to pay for our road resurfacing. So in the 2020 draft budget presented in January, the plan was to use taxes to pay for about $150,000 of that, and the remainder was going to be paid by gas tax and OCIF formula funding. Well, we had some gas tax funds in reserve, so we've just increased the amount that we're going to use in order to reduce that tax levy. The director of operations has decided to remove the one-way plow and the sweeper for the loader in order to buy more maintenance gravel so that he can do some more grading. We didn't want to increase the tax levy that was proposed in January, but more grading needed to be done. So this is the solution that we came up with. We've talked about lost revenue the last month and a bit because of COVID. So we've adjusted for the estimates of lost revenue to date. This again is one of those things that we don't know how long COVID's going to go on and what our operations look like a few months from now. So this number is subject to change, but we do have a savings and expenses that can account for that. Another thing that occurred since January is we hired the Phelps Group for CIO recruitment. So that wasn't originally included in the budget. So I've just added that in now to make sure we have the funds to cover it. We've increased the vehicle repairs budget a little bit, which was a conversation that was had at the January meeting. Again, I didn't want to increase the tax levy that was presented in January, so we were only able to increase that by $10,000. And the final thing we adjusted for was our 50% share of the Katy Arena. In 2019, our share was about $17,000, I believe. Let me just see if about 17,000. So I'm just adjusting, doubling that for the whole year. Again, with COVID, we're not sure what that looks like, but at least we're accounting for those costs. And it is on our radar to talk to our lawyer about that agreement, because that agreement is from the 70s, I believe. And and there was no expiry date on it. So that is something that staff are looking into. But for now, we are required to pay our 50% share as per that agreement. So that is a very high level of changes I've made to the budget, and I'm open to any and all questions. Again, I just want to emphasize that there's a lot of unknowns right now due to COVID, but I think we have a budget on the table that accounts for those unknowns, and we'll be able to manage those as things come.
Thanks, Cassie, for the great report. Does council have any questions on our proposed budget? Councilor Colburn.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. I also thought it was a great report. I don't know if I'm just getting better at this over time, or if you did this up differently, Cassie, but it seemed to make a lot of sense and it was super clear. So thank you. I noticed that we have allocated $100,000 for a work under the Parks, Trails and Rec Master Program. And then I think your report also mentions some money to be spent, capital expenses at our community centers. Is that the $100,000, or will the community centers work be over and above that?
So those are two separate items. So we had $100,000 in the capital enhancement budget to implement things that came out of the Rec Master Plan. So that was one thing. Mm-hmm. But then we also had some money set aside to do some of the upgrades needed that were identified in our building condition assessment reports. And that money is going to come from the modernization grant that we've had sitting there that we got in 2019. We can use that to do the upgrades on our facilities.
Got it. Thanks. Just quickly, can you explain to me again, because you probably already explained this to me, but why do we have a different COLA set for unionized versus non-unionized staff?
So the unionized staff negotiate their COLA in the collective agreement. So theirs is set for the next 4 years, and that is what is in their collective agreement. For non-union staff, we have a policy that was passed and endorsed by council that their cost of living adjustment will be the annual percentage for the period of September 1st to whatever that year is anyway, and that's what gets presented. So that's why it's different, and it will be different from the unionized guys each and every year.
Got it. Thanks. So just two other quick ones, I think. Did we add another position to our roads crew this year that would not have been accounted for in this budget? And I'm talking about the 4-person. Is that new in 2020, or did that happen last year?
Nope, that 4-person's been in place for the last couple of years, actually.
Okay. And finally, we talk about work to the ditches and some culvert replacement that we'll talk more about under the Davenport subdivision. I'm assuming that work won't need to be done this year, or if it is it been accounted for in the budget as well?
I can't speak to that. Tyler will speak to that a little bit later in the council agenda. I don't know the cost for that, but we do have money that we can use for that. If Tyler is unable to fund that from his existing operations budget, we can use reserves to work on that. And I mean, we did know that was coming, but it's not specifically identified in the budget, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Coburn, good questions. Does any other council member have a question on our proposed budget? Brittany, do we have any calls or emails from the public concerning the budget?
No, we don't.
We have nothing. So I guess if there's no other questions on the budget, Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Absolutely. So when I say your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Counselor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Counselor Grant Pringle,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
A question, I guess, to Cassie or to Brittany on the proposed budget. All this is doing is that it's approving a motion to bring the bylaw back at our next meeting for final approval. So there's still plenty of opportunity for the public to ask questions if they wish. Am I correct in that?
Yes, this is directing me to prepare the bylaws, so the budget will not be officially passed till you pass those bylaws on June 17th.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to our agenda. Surplus cemetery equipment. I have a recommendation that report LEG 2020-10 from the acting clerk regarding disposal of surplus cemetery equipment be received for information, and that the following maintenance equipment be deemed surplus. 1, 2012 Husqvarna riding mower, serial number 0939229128001234 for $650, and that 1, 2011 Husqvarna riding mower, serial number 060211A001275 for $850, and that said equipment be sold to Township Cemetery Contractor, Owen Sound Vault Works Limited, at the provided valuation. Do I have somebody to move to put the motion on the floor, please? Someone to move the motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlson, second by Councillor Colburn. And Grant, your third. Is there any questions? Britton, do you want to speak to your report?
I don't really have too much to add to the report. Gord Ironmonger with Owen Sound Vault Works, being our cemetery contractor, contacted me regarding purchasing the equipment. It's currently not being used, so it stands to reason that we should sell it. That way we also give up all maintenance costs as well as liability, insurance, what have you. But if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thanks, Brittany. Does council have any questions on the report?
I just had a question, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Burford, go ahead.
None of our other departments need a spare lawnmower. I was thinking of the airport or arenas and parks. It's always nice to have a spare.
Tyler, do you have any comments?
I can say at this time that we're not really in the market for these particular mowers. I've never actually seen them myself, or the quality or shape that they're in. The value that they're at there, I can't imagine you'd be able to work those ones too hard. But if it's a wish of council, I'm more than willing to go out there and take a look at them and see if we could put them back to life in another capacity. As for the airport, we still have existing lawnmowers to do the work. The zero turns that was on the budget is just a lot better and more efficient. But again, we still have the equipment to do the task.
Brittany, do I understand from your report that these two pieces of equipment are just sitting at the cemetery building now, not being used?
Correct. So prior to 2019, October of 2019 specifically, the township had entered into 3 separate contracting agreements with three separate contractors. Since that point, being October 2019, we have amalgamated all cemeteries to be serviced and maintained by one contractor, being Owen Sound Vault Works. So as we had formerly contracted with 3 separate people, we were responsible for providing the equipment, which is what we are now declaring surplus, so Owen Sound Vault Works can take ownership and they can provide the maintenance in the cemeteries.
Okay, thanks for that, Brittany. Does council have any other questions? Seeing none, Brittany, would you call for the vote, please?
Absolutely. So when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Bartlett,
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland,
4.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn,
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Joy Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on, I have a recommendation here that report LEG 2020-11 regarding amendments to the procedural bylaw 2019-125 to permit emergency electronic participation in council and local board meetings from the acting clerk be received, and the council hereby resumes their regular meeting schedule as approved at their meeting on December 18, 2019, subject to the following amendments. Committee of Adjustments shall commence at 4 p.m. Council shall commence at 4 p.m. Committee of the Whole shall commence at 4 p.m. and that the schedule amendment shall remain in effect throughout the duration of the emergency period or otherwise directed by council, and the bylaw 2020-54 being a bylaw to amend procedural bylaw 2019-125 to permit electronic participation in council and local board meetings during a declared emergency. Further to Bill 187, the Municipal Emergency Act 2020 be adopted. Do I have somebody to move to put the motion on the floor, please? Do we have a mover for the motion, please? Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by. Do we have a seconder? Second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Sorry, Brittany, this is your report too. You want to speak to it?
Sure. So I'll just briefly outline the report. So this report is a follow-up to what we had discussed at the May 20th meeting, being that council will return to their regular schedule, including all committee and local board meetings. So that will include bio, ITFD, Committee of the Whole, Committee of Adjustment, etc. We have managed to squeeze all meetings into the month of June, so it will be a busy month. But otherwise, I'm open to questions should council have it.
Thank you, Brittany. Does council have any questions on the meeting dates or times? See no questions. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn,
4.
Councillor Paul Sutherland,
4.
Councillor Carol Bartlett,
4.
Councillor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on to our agenda, I have another recommendation, that report CAO 2020-08 regarding a request for funding for a resort hotel commercial feasibility study be received, and the council approve a contribution of $5,000 to the town of South Bruce Peninsula for participation in the mixed use resort hotel commercial feasibility study. Do I have somebody to move to put the motion on the floor? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Pringle. Anne Marie, do you want to speak to this report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request from South Bruce Peninsula for $5,000 towards the study of a mixed-use resort hotel commercial feasibility study. South Bruce Peninsula has applied for a grant through Tourism Development Fund, in which they have been successful and have received economic development, Georgian, Bluffs, South Bruce Peninsula, Grey and Bruce counties. In January of 2020, they were successful in acquiring the grant, and there was a request for proposal that was issued in March 26th of 2020 with a closing date of May 1st. The tender has been awarded, and the successful bid was through $36,400. The Tourism Development Fund grant will pay for a portion of that, and they are looking at a contribution from Georgian Bluffs. It would provide Georgian Bluffs with an analysis which includes local and surrounding building activity reports, labor reports, a review of projected population growth, existing inventory of tourism and infrastructure. So it would provide a lot of great information that could be used for economic development for the area. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions? Deputy Mayor Carlson.
I have a question.
Deputy Mayor Carlton, your hand is up first.
Okay, thank you. My question, I think it's a great opportunity to take part at kind of a reduced rate of funds. But I guess my question is, where do those funds come from? Are we using reserves for that? Because that wouldn't have been in our already set budget. So just wondering how we handle that.
Cassie, I'll let you take care of that one.
I would like to use the modernization grant for that. So we have quite a bit of money still set aside for that, and I think economic development is a perfect avenue to spend some of that money.
Thanks, Cassie. Councillor Barfa, you have a question.
I think it's probably a really good idea, and I don't remember discussing it before. However, in the report, it says here where we have stated our support for this study, and I don't ever remember coming before council before. And another line in this sort of piqued my interest. Also comprehensive market analysis to determine the economic and financial feasibility of a mixed-use hotel resort commercial development in the town of South Bruce Peninsula. So I would like further comment on that.
Certainly. So as far as I can tell, it was discussed at an economic development meeting in 2018, and that the thought that Grey County and Georgian Bluffs would be interested in supporting it going forward. There was no commitment. There was just that there would be interest. And I guess this is the point where it's when we received the request from South Bruce Peninsula, that was, of course, the first time that I became aware of it too. So that's why the report is before you. And certainly they are looking at the end result being that resort for, or that hotel being for South Bruce Peninsula. But it will have an economic driver and a factor for the entire area. And they also wanted to expand it. So it did originally start off as just looking at the feasibility of a hotel study, but then it ended up being much more than that. So it's going to take a regional look at what might be some other economic drivers. How could more private businesses and private ventures be attracted to the area? And of course, everyone knows having a resort or a hotel will provide more of those opportunities. So it's a twofold study now.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Councillor Barfoot, do you have another follow-up question?
No, it's just when you read it, it sounds like it's for South Peninsula. Well, it said in South Bruce Peninsula. I have a problem with that when it says it very specifically in South Bruce Peninsula. And this is the first I've heard of it.
Thank you. Councillor Pringle, your hand was up.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say I kind of thought too when they looked at the $5,000, it was really maybe a small price for us to pay to maybe get some benefit to our township as well, to learn some more numbers. And I also kind of thought too maybe it was a small step moving forward with us, maybe hopefully mending some fences with South Bruce and patching up some holes here and there. And, you know, it was a direction to go the right way, I thought. So that was really all I had to comment on it.
Thanks, Grant. Councillor Colburn, I believe your hand is up.
So if it is looking at a more of a regional four-season tourism model, I just was curious to know if North Bruce Peninsula had been approached as well, and if they have agreed to pay the $5,000, and also Bruce County, actually.
As far as I know, I'm uncertain about North Bruce Peninsula or Bruce County, but I know Grey County has decided to go forward with it, and I'm bringing it forth to Georgian Bluffs. I do not believe that when I was speaking with their economic development officer that there were any other funds being put towards it other than ourselves in Grey County.
Okay, Councillor Coburn. Do I see any other questions?
Just one more question, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Barfoot, go ahead.
So we will get a full copy of that resort. I mean, a full copy. Not
Yes, we
just
will.
to do with Georgian Bluffs.
Yes, we will have the full study.
Thank you.
Okay. See no other questions. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Bartlett.
Or
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
Opposed.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
Or.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries 6-1.
Thank you. Moving off our agenda, I have a very long recommendation here, and I'll try to read. Whereas the application to amend the Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan is complete and demonstrates consistency with the provincial policy statement 2020, the County of Grey official plan, recolor gray, and Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan, it is recommended that official plan amendment number. I'm getting an echo.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
It is recommended that official plan amendment number 7 by MJD Investments Limited be approved, and whereas application Z0318 is consistent with the provincial policy statement 2020, the County of Grey official plan recolor gray, the Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan, and the intent of the Township of Georgian Bluffs zoning bylaw 2020, it is recommended that application Z0318 be approved, and whereas Township staff have reviewed the proposed plan of subdivision with the associated OPA and zoning amendment applications, it is recommended that application 42T 2017-05 be supported, and that the conditions of draft approval as included in this report be forwarded to the county for consideration and approval of the application. Do I have someone to move to put it on the floor, please? Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Just so I do this right, I'll turn it over to Brittany, please.
So prior to initiating our conversation, we do have a few registrants with us this afternoon, our very first public registrants and our very first public meeting, very exciting. So I just wanted to confirm that they are with us and able to hear us prior to us commencing our conversation. So first, Murray Davenport, do I have you on the line? Mr. Davenport, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect, thank you. Beth Ann Curry, do I have you on the line?
Yes, I'm here, thank you.
Perfect. And lastly, Ron Davidson, do I have you on the line? I did have to mute you, Mr. Davidson, so you'll have to unmute yourself. Mr. Davidson is with us. We'll just get him unmuted prior to ending this conversation. So we did have one other registrant that we are still waiting on. We have followed up with him to see if he is attending. That is Brian McIntosh. So when he joins the meeting, I will update all of council. So now that we have...
Brittany, we do have someone waiting in the lobby.
So that number, I'm just confirming if that's Brian McIntosh, because he did not register with that number. So I don't want to admit someone that I don't know. So I will comment that all registrants will have a 3-minute commenting period. So if you could keep your comments brief within that 3-minute period, we would appreciate it. Now I'll throw it over to Jen. Jen, if you could review your report, please.
Brittany, before we go to Jen, just one other comment. Could council please wait until they give the reports and so on before we ask our questions? Just to make it a lot more consistent, okay? Go ahead, Jen.
Thank you. So just to correct the record, this is not a public meeting. This is the presentation of a recommendation report. The public meeting was held last year. And so this is the follow-up to the items addressed at the public meeting. So just in summary, to review this application again, MJD Investments Limited is seeking approval to build a 28-lot subdivision off of Churchside Road and south of Cobble Beach. So in order to do this, the owner, Murray Davenport, has applied to amend the Township official plan and the zoning bylaw. So Mr. Davenport's property is about 49 acres, and about 16 acres are proposed for the subdivision. And an application for a plan of subdivision was also submitted to the County of Grey. So we're considering official plan amendments for the Georgian Bluffs official plan to change the land use designation from future development to residential, and to rezone the lands from planned development to residential, which is a general residential R1 zone. No amendment to the county official plan is required, as it right now designates the land's secondary settlement area and permits residential development. So the lots will accommodate single detached residential homes and uses accessory thereto. So that means people can build a single detached house with a detached garage and different sheds, pools. So the other, there are lands included with this proposed plan of subdivision that haven't been applied to redesignate or rezone because they're already designated and zoned appropriately for residential development. So when we look at the policies that affect the proposal before us, we see that the property is located within the secondary settlement area of East Lyndon, and we know that the province directs growth and settlement to settlement areas, and as does the Grey County official plan and the Georgian Bluffs official plan. So in support of these applications, the developer has submitted a number of studies to demonstrate compliance with the provincial policy and official plan policies of the township and the county. So in compliance with section 1667 of the PPS 2020, a stormwater management plan was completed by a professional engineer and submitted in support of the applications. The plan was reviewed by the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority, as well as Ian Erickson from GM Blue Plan, who is a professional engineer. And that peer review was conducted on behalf of the County of Grey and the Township of Georgian Bluffs. So in response to that initial peer review, the developer did revise the stormwater management plan to the satisfaction of the township. Just along the lines of the stormwater management design, the more detailed design for the subdivision will be submitted and reviewed at the subdivision agreement stage and included in the agreement as a development requirement. That detailed plan will be subject to the approval of the township, the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority, and a ministry environmental compliance approval. So some of the comments that we received from the Conservation Authority are recommending that off-site drainage works be completed prior to any site alteration being permitted. That's going to be included as a provision in the subdivision agreement, and that's to avoid any on-site development causing additional pressures on the existing drainage in the area. The township's consulting engineers, so that's Ian Erickson from GM Blue Plan, is in the process of working with our director of operations right now to finalize an engineered plan for municipal roadside ditch upgrades downstream of the proposed Davenport subdivision. And as a condition of draft approval, it's being recommended that the developer contribute to the costs of the ditch upgrades. So we also look at other studies in considering official plan amendments, and an environmental impact assessment was submitted and reviewed. It concluded that other than the presence of the wetland features and the suitable habitat for eastern meadowlark and bobolink, no other constraints were identified on the property that would limit the location of a development building envelope. So the report does note that approximately 3.3 hectares of eastern meadowlark and bobolink habitat will be removed because of the development. And it's noting that a permit from the MNRF, in accordance with the Endangered Species Act, will be required for development of the property. So that's a habitat compensation plan, and that's required prior to development occurring. That gets approved by the MNRF, and we saw this requirement with the Kilsyth subdivision that was recently approved. An archaeological assessment, actually 2 of them were conducted, and the archaeological reports for the subject lands were submitted to the ministry, and they were entered into register. What that means is that they were accepted by the ministry. The stage 2 property assessment of the study area encountered no archaeological resources, so no further archaeological assessment of the study area is warranted. So the ministry is satisfied with the report that has been submitted, and there's no concerns moving forward on that. The servicing for the subdivision is proposed to be on full municipal services. At this stage, we don't ask for detailed plans because the plans and the process, the plans are expensive, the process is fairly involved, and we need to follow the process to make sure that the appropriate approvals are in place first. So it wouldn't be fair to ask the developer to come forward with detailed municipal servicing plans without having first approved the official plan amendment. If the plan amendment is denied, then the developer has spent all kinds of money on plans that can't be used. So that's why we're not reviewing those plans at this time. And it's traditionally part of the subdivision agreement phase. The zoning bylaw. So the purpose of the amendment, or the zoning bylaw amendment, is to rezone a portion of those lands. They're currently planned development, and they need to be zoned to general residential. No other relief has been requested because the proposed lots meet the minimum lot area and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw. It is an appropriate zone that has been requested because the surrounding lands are zoned for residential and shoreline residential uses. Within that area, there are single detached dwellings and accessory structures and boathouses along the shore. Those are permitted and common in the neighborhood. So to rezone the property for residential development is in keeping with the existing neighborhood. So the public meeting to consider these applications was held on June 5th. And at that time, in the public meeting report, I did present comments that we had received before the report submission deadline, both from agencies as well as residents. So we have received, with some of the review that has gone back and forth on this application since the public meeting, we did receive comments back from the Grace Saba Conservation Authority. They had a concern with Lot 10. It contains some hazard area, and they weren't they were concerned about it being proposed as a lot. So the developer has addressed that concern by removing that proposed lot 10 from the plan of subdivision. So when this application came before council before, it was for a 29 lot plan of subdivision. It has since been revised to 28 to address that concern. And they are concluding that based on the review of the third submission for this plan of subdivision, they generally have no objection to the proposal. And they're requesting that compensation plan to address the bird habitat be submitted to their office once it's been accepted by the county and the ministry. They'd like to have a look at that as well. And they have also recommended conditions, as I note in the report, of proposed conditions for draft approval. So they have been included, and they are noted at the end of the report. So we received comments from the residents in the area. And what I want to point out to council, at the public meeting, it was noted by a couple of residents in attendance that they had provided email comments to me, which I did not receive. So when staff looked into it, there actually had been a server issue, and the comments were not received by staff until the server issue was fixed a few days later. So I have included those comments in their entirety for council to consider with this report. And those are appended to the end of the report. The most common issue raised by the residents, both in the written comments as well as in their presentations to council, center around stormwater management and existing drainage issues. I won't read the comments out that were received from the residents, but I will note for the record that we did receive written correspondence from Rose and Peter Peacock, Murray Harris, Barry Hargrave, David Rye, and Brian McIntosh. So again, all of their comments are appended to this report in their entirety for council to review. And just with the staff comment related to the stormwater, I have been working with the Director of Operations, and we have had consultation with Ian Erickson, the engineer. The comments that are related to the stormwater drainage and culverts are being addressed by the Township Operations Department in conjunction with GM Blue Plan. The municipal, and this is a quote from the engineer, the municipal roadside ditch upgrades downstream of the subject property will expand the conveyance capacity in order to safely direct the increase in post-development peak stormwater flows to Owen Sound Bay. So an environmental compliance approval is going to be required from the ministry for the final design components of this subdivision. The Grace Harbor Conservation Authority will be reviewing the plans. The township will be reviewing the plans, as will our consulting engineer. So once occupancy has been issued for each lot, so after the houses are built, and as a condition of occupancy, what generally happens is that the property owner is required to provide an engineered grading and drainage plan in compliance with the overall plan, and before they get occupancy. So after that has been issued, then each of those property owners are going to be responsible to maintain the approved grading and drainage plan on site. And that's something that's common. We've seen it in the township. Every property owner is responsible to make sure that they don't change the grading and drainage on their property so that it discharges water onto the neighbor. The development issues related to water and sewage infrastructure will be addressed at the subdivision agreement stage when detailed plans are requested. And all works, as always, are required to be completed to the township, to the satisfaction of the township. So in conclusion, my report is recommending approval of official plan amendment number 7, approval of application Z0318, which is the zoning bylaw amendment, and for council to support the proposed plan of subdivision, as well as the recommended conditions of draft approval. So on the last page of the last 2 pages of the report, I have provided conditions of draft approval that that would support this plan of subdivision. And I'm recommending that these be sent to the county to be included. There will be other conditions included in the draft conditions, as there's other agencies that are involved in this, and they will have submitted their own conditions as well. So here I have 12 that I that through this review process we have arrived at. And that is that's the presentation of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'm getting an awful. Brittany.
Okay, I think I fixed it. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Tyler, comments.
Thank you, Mayor Burley. First off, Jen, excellent job on this report. I know it's been a lot of hard work coming. I just wanted to bring attention to the meeting minutes that I've added, well, as quickly as I could, but rather last minute to this report. I just wanted to outline that staff has met up with Ian Erickson and our road superintendent and some local residents down on Churchside Road and Balmy Beach Road. I'm a firm believer that this is a very valuable step, and we learn a lot from the local knowledge of where the drainage issues are and how they can be corrected. So in this summary of minutes, if you will, that is being added to this is more just outlining residents' comments and concerns. But if I can break it down slightly, there's 3 separate concerns to this particular intersection. We have north on Churchside Road. So that's actually our trail that heads through Cobble Beach. We do have a separate issue going through there, but we have plans to improve it. This report speaks directly to the southern portion of Churchside Road, and as Jen adequately described there, it has to go through an ECP and get an ECA approval. So we're at an early stages, and we're still gathering information. As for Gansby Manor Blue Plan, we are working towards an actual design that will come to council with an estimated cost as well to relate with the developer as well. And the third one is more of a water quality issue that we're having approximately half a kilometer down the road south of Churchside Road. So again, that could be considered somewhat of conversations in a phased approach, but I don't feel it's going to be impacted by this first phase that is being presented.
Thank you, Tyler.
No problem.
Brittany, would you like to let the registrars speak now? Or?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so now I will invite the registrants to speak. We will start with Miss Beth Ann Curry, then move to Mr. Davenport, and then finish with Mr. Ron Davidson. I will remind all registrants that we would prefer that all comments be kept brief within a 3-minute window. And again, only speak when called upon by the chair, and refer to your how-to guide should you have any difficulties. To commence the public commenting portion of this event, I will start by reading correspondence sent to myself by Mr. Ron Campbell. He requested that I read it aloud. So it begins with, "Hello, Ms. Burnett. I have read a recent email from Murray Harris to yourself and concur with him and have the same concerns that he has voiced. The watershed issue should be dealt with in a way so it is not an issue to the adjacent landowners in the future. I might point out that the ditch that runs along the south side of Churchside Road East past our property floods onto our property a number of times during the year as it doesn't have sufficient depth. To that extent, we need assurance that any storm drainage system is sufficient to not add to an already existing problem that needs to be resolved by the township. I only hope that proper action is taken to protect the adjacent lands from flood runoff or ongoing drainage. Best regards, Ron Campbell. So I am envisioning that we will hear from Ms. Beth Ann Curry first, and then Mr. Davenport and Mr. Davidson will have the opportunity to respond to any concerns that are raised, and then we will move to the council question portion. So Ms. Curry, you're up. Your time to shine. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. Thanks, Brittany. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I really didn't prepare remarks. I was more interested in hearing Jen's commentary as she synthesized all the reports that have been shared before us, and I think she did a very good job. I just wanted to be assured that the Lot 10 really was going to be considered as a ecological zone, and it sounds to me like Lot 10 is being brought that way. So instead of 29 intensive lot developments, it's 28. And it sounds to me like the recommendations of the Conservation Authority and MNRF regarding the replacement of lost species at risk habitat will be attended to. So I commend council on receiving those reports and look forward to just whatever you can share back about some of those mitigating factors in the time going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Mr. Davenport, if you'd like to add any comments, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for bringing this report forward to council for final approval. In response to Beth Ann Curry's comment, our environmental impact study person has located comparable or a location where the habitat for meadowlark and bobolink can be replaced at our expense, of course. With Mr. Campbell, I was up to the site on Monday morning this week. And I'm very aware of the flooding currently that goes onto Ron Campbell's property. And it's my intention to take the fence down, build a berm along the fence, and then replace the fence in its current form. That we have been aware of, and that'll be part of the actual construction drawings. As far as I met with Brian McIntosh on site as well on Monday. And we discussed his concerns, similar to what Tyler is talking about. And, I think that's in our future development, unless the municipality is participating in something in the short term. He was suggesting constructing ponding on our property to control the sediment. From my experience, that's a problem. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Conservation Authorities generally frown on online ponds, so a more sophisticated system would have to be done when we develop phase 2 of the plan of subdivision. In addition to that, I would encourage council to support the application as presented to council by Jen Burnett, and we're happy to get on with doing the business of doing business here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davenport. And for council's information, Murray will stay on the line with us should you have any questions when we get to that portion of this meeting. Mr. Davidson, if you have any comments to add, please go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I have very little to say, other than the development that council has before them tonight clearly represents good land use planning. The lands, as you heard from Jen, will be serviced with water and sewer, and that's always a very good thing. The concerns from the neighbors regarding stormwater management, that seems to be the big here. They've been addressed by the qualified experts in the field of stormwater management. They seem to be or they are satisfied, and they're recommending that the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment be approved or proceed now. And they are also saying that the county can issue draft approval of the plan of subdivision. So that stuff, or those issues, have been addressed by the qualified experts. There's more work to be done before final approval can be given, but this is an appropriate time for the draft approval of the plan of subdivision and approval of the two applications that are before council now, which is the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. That's all I have to say. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davidson. Mr. Mayor, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Brittany. At this time, open the floor up to council. Does council have any questions? I must say that it's been excellent reports coming from all staff. Really explains everything in detail. This is just the first step, like going up a ladder. We're taking the first step, and this is the first step in the process. There's still plenty of opportunities to make sure we look at everything. As mayor of the municipality, and I imagine most of council members, we're all well aware of the drainage situation we have on the Churchside Road, and I'm quite sure before we get done of this subdivision and the whole area, we will address all those concerns. So I'll make that very clear. It's a process we're following through, and we're not quite there yet, but it will be addressed. If I see no other questions of council, Brittany?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
Councillor Barfoot has her hand raised.
Sure, Carol, go ahead, Councillor Barfoot.
Okay, thank you, Jen, for a very extensive report. It answered a lot of questions. Okay, since the drainage issue down on Balmy Beach Road seems to be the biggest issue now, this new ditching and that will be monitored very closely by the municipality. And what'll happen if it's not sufficient to handle it all?
I'll turn that over to Tyler. Can you answer that question?
Thank you, Mayor Burley, and Councillor, for that question. It's going to be just like all of our other road systems. Yes, for sure. We patrol them, we maintain them. It's a bit of a what-if situation, though. I feel like once they have the appropriate stormwater report in hand, it's fairly straightforward on how you size a pipe accordingly. It's the design options right now, or do we put in 2 or 1? It's not as complicated as things really could be in that intersection. I also would like to point out that there was the water used to actually flow over top of Balmy Beach Road last year, which raised a lot of concerns. That should never happen. But that's been remediated with some ditching work that has happened in 2019. So again, the municipality has had their eye on this. With the future development, this is why we go through the design process, is with Ian Erickson. He's just starting the design itself, and we have some choices to make when it comes back to council and in consideration for that. I hope that answered your question, but either way, we would be responsible for maintaining this ditch work at the end of this, correct?
Councillor Barfoot, did you get your question answered?
Yes, thank you very much, Tyler. No, I'm sure this is in the back of everyone's mind down on Balmy Beach Road, and I just wanted them to be assured that, yes, the township will be monitoring it very closely.
Thanks, Carol. Does any other council member have any questions or concerns? Seeing nothing, Brittany appearing, would you take the vote, please?
Absolutely. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Carol Bartlett.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries 7-0. And thank you again to our registrants for participating.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, moving off our agenda, we're now down to a site agreement. I have a recommendation of the application SP0420 for Keith James Holiday approved, and the bylaw 2020-53 be passed to authorize a site plan agreement for lands described as part lot 37, Kelpoise Range, RP 16R5026, part 1, former Keppel Township. Would somebody to move to put the motion on the floor, please?
I will.
Moved by Councillor Sullivan, second by Councillor Colburn. This is Jen's report. Jen, any comments?
This one's fairly straightforward. This is another site plan agreement to be registered on title. It is a condition of a severance approved by the Committee of Adjustment, and it is just essentially to identify a development envelope on the retained portion of the Halliday property. So this property is in Big Bay, and the application was for a lot addition of land owned by Jim Halliday to land owned by Jim and Edith. And the retained portion, through the review process, the Conservation Authority identified that there were some environmental constraints on the lands, so they delineated a development envelope. And so when that property is sold, the agreement will be on title so that the future property owners know where they can build. It's fairly straightforward.
Thanks, Jen. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, Brittany, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
Thank you. And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on, public question period. Brittany, did we have any replies from ratepayers?
We did not.
Okay, so moving on to our bylaws. We have no zoning bylaws, other bylaws. First one, 15.2. Recommendation that bylaw 2020-53 being a bylaw to authorize a site plan agreement with Kenneth James Holiday be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor, clerk, and sealed to seal the corporation endorsing the bylaw book. My tongue going here. Do you have somebody to move the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Barfoot. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Seeing none, Brittany, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on with our next recommendation, that bylaw 2020-54 being a bylaw to amend procedural bylaw 2019-125 to extend electronic participation provisions during emergencies to committees of council and local boards as included in the Municipal Emergency Act 2020 be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed to seal the corporation, and endorsed in the bylaw book. Do we have somebody to move to put the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Pringle. Any discussion on the motion before us? Councillor Colburn, no? I see no discussion. Brittany, will you take the vote, please?
And when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Counselor Paul Sutherland,
4.
Counselor Kathy Moore Coburn,
4.
Counselor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Counselor Grant Pringle,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. Moving on, we have no unfinished business, new business. The first new business is a request from Councillor Colburn. Councillor Colburn, boy, I seem to lose my tongue. Anyway, Councillor Colburn, could you please tell me why you want this information?
Oh, just for general knowledge. I found in discussing with a few other people outside of our own council that it's customary for senior staff to present occasionally to council, especially new councils, to give an overview of their role within the municipality. I think it would have been helpful for Grant and I, perhaps particularly if it had been done earlier. I had actually asked to sit down with Crystal and understand her role a bit better, and her thinking, and I quite agree, is that she felt all of council could benefit from that information, and she'd be happy to come and present to us. I'd like to see that possibly follow through in the future with just little presentations from other senior staff so that we can get to know them a bit better. They get to highlight what they do and maybe some of their accomplishments. And yeah, so that's the reason behind that.
Okay, I'll accept that. Councillor Colburn, I must point out we have to be very careful. We're on a very thin ice here without talking about an individual person. So we got to be very careful not to mention names. I can appreciate why you want information to see how our Human Resources Department works. It makes perfect sense. I agree with that. Does council want?
No, sorry, I don't want anyone to misunderstand. It's really got nothing to do with any individual. It's simply just to understand her role within the municipality a little bit better. I'd also like to understand the role of our chief building official better, and how the pieces work together. And just to get to know people a little bit, see their faces, hear them speak. There is nothing underlying or surreptitious about this request. It's just simply information.
Okay, I'll accept that. Does the rest of council want this information? Councillor Pringle?
Sorry, Dwight, you cut out there for a quick second. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, I'm just asking, does all of council want this information?
You still got my hand up there, Dwight.
Yeah, okay. Grant, go ahead. You want it?
No, I would have to. I'd have to agree with Kathy there. For us being newcomers, there's a lot we need to learn and need to know. And if we put a bit of more information in front of us, just more knowledge. I kind of agree to that too. Not too. It's just more knowledge about council and what goes on. So, kudos to Kathy for putting that out there, because that's a great suggestion. I 100% agree with Kathy on that one.
Okay, Grant, before we go to Councillor Barfoot, Amory, would you and your staff be able to bring some form of report back to council, sort of outlining what Councillor Colburn is asking?
Certainly, starting with the HR department, we could certainly explain what attendance management is, some of those tasks that are involved in the HR department, union negotiations, training, skills development, performance management, all that sort of thing. We could easily put that into a report. And then if council so wishes, we could, look at bringing other departments forward, such as maybe our building department, operations, just to give a general overview of the tasks that are performed. Would that be sufficient? Would that be or what you're looking for?
I think it's a great idea, and I can understand. It makes perfect sense. Councillor Barfoot, you have your hand up.
I'm in favor of it. Consider it educational, because there are some aspects of all departments that we're not up on the way we should be. So go for it.
Okay. So I think, Amory, you got your direction from council that we're requesting a report outlining what I guess each one of the departments does, just for council information?
Certainly.
Thank you.
If I could?
Sorry, Councilor Sullivan, go ahead.
Sorry, I still don't have that raise your hand feature on mine.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good for a refresher course for some of us too. I know somewhat still new councilor too. We got a bit of this when we first came on, Sue and I did, and it definitely was helpful. So it would definitely be nice to get a refresher course on some of this stuff too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. Since you brought this forward, Councilor Colburn, is what we're suggesting answer your request?
Yeah, for sure. I don't want it to add in any kind of onerous way to their workload, and certainly there's no rush. And it would be nice for them to appear before council if they feel comfortable doing so. Again, it's not just about the information, but it's about getting to know our staff a little bit better as well, and the opposite, for them to get to know us a little bit better.
Thank you. I think Anne Marie, I see her nodding her head. She understands what we're trying to do. Okay?
Great.
Thanks. The next request is from Mayor Dwight Burley. What I'm after is that council, in the last 6 months, we've been going through an awful lot of different turmoils and very unique situations all the way through. I was trying to look for a way to bring council together as more of a team. And I would like the permission from council to allow me to work with a coach to be able to start improving council as a whole. I had an opportunity to meet a coach, executive coach. Her name is Pat Morton from Stonehill Consulting. She's a specialist in team building, organizational coaching, and stuff like that. Enhanced communication and teamwork. And I'd like an opportunity, if council will allow me, to work with her, the deputy mayor, and me, just to see how we can improve everything right from start to finish. And if council would like to get involved in it as a whole, that would be really much appreciated. But there's a cost for it. It's $225 for an hour session. I'd like to at least try a couple sessions for a start to see how it's working out. I have talked to the person, very knowledgeable person. I think she's skilled at what she does. And I really think she would help us just to build a great relationship, which I'm hoping we all can do. So I'm asking council permission to allow me to engage this person to start this process. Councilor Barfoot.
Okay, I think it's probably a very good idea. However, when you mention team building, would it not be a benefit that all of council have the opportunity?
Oh, I agree, Councilor Barfoot. What I was suggesting was that they'd start with me, and then we'd start to work the plan out from there with the deputy mayor and me and the council. And this professional, let her put the process in place. That way, it's not me that's doing it, it's her. She's the professional. She's a very good coach, and she knows what to do to achieve what we're trying to do. And once we got started, all of council would be able to get involved in this by all means. And I'm just asking permission to do it. I want council to be aware of what I was trying to do right up front, and that's why I brought it here tonight. Deputy Mayor. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Carol.
Now, is she coaching from a municipal point of view, or just coaching everyday management? Does she have any municipal experience?
I'd say yes. By all means, she is a professional that coaches CAOs, mayors, which she has done through both Bruce and Grey County. She's very well voiced in that situation.
What was the name again?
Pat Morton. Morden. Anyway, she's well known for coaching CAOs in the area, which she has done, mayors throughout the whole Grey and Bruce counties. She's well voiced in municipal organizations and how they all work. I really think she'd be a great thing. Deputy Mayor, you have your hand up.
Yes, I do. I was part of that meeting with you when you met with Pat, and part of what she does is work on explaining the roles and responsibilities of council, of staff, of working from that angle, and then of working at team building. And she's done a lot of this with municipalities. And I think the County of Grey has used her in the past, and I was very impressed with her. She's very blunt, but she's very knowledgeable. So I think it would be worth it for all of council to take part in this.
Amory, any comment? I believe you know Pat. You've heard of her?
Yes, I have worked with Pat in the past. Pat does do a lot of work with municipalities, again, CAO, mayors, directors. She's done a lot of work with our long-term care in doing team building in that capacity. And I know she's also worked with other councils. I agree with Sue's analysis. She's very forward, but she really does a great job, and she takes an approach in which you're exploring and you're learning, but you're also listening from her experience too. So certainly well known around Grey and Bruce area, and she does have a website if anyone wants to check her out.
Thank you, Councillor Colburn.
Yeah, I love the idea. This is what, unfortunately, I think we needed to have several months ago. It's exactly what I had wanted, not a fish presentation, but an actual legit team building approach. And yeah, kudos to you for bringing it forward. I definitely support this.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Carlton, your hand is up.
I would agree with Councillor Colburn on this one. This was something I would have loved to have seen shortly after we came on council together after the last election. I think it's training that we could have used then would have been very pertinent, but it's certainly going to be invaluable now as well.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just want council to work together as a team. This is a great way of doing it. With council permission, I'd like to proceed with it, and I will let Pat Morton set the schedule and how she would like to approach the situation. I think it'd be best if we let her do it. I would like to meet with her again, and then we can start that process in place. Brittany, do you need anything more from council other than councilor giving me direction to proceed with this person? You need
No.
more broadband?
No, I think it's fine. Council direction is sufficient.
Kathy, do you need a motion for your end of it, or are you okay with that?
Cassie?
Sorry, did you say Kathy or Kathy?
No, sorry, Cassie, the
Oh.
birthday girl.
Nope, I'm good. Direction's fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, council, for that. We will proceed with it. Moving on with our agenda. Our next recommendation is whereas emergency was declared in the Township of Georgian Bluffs on March 27, 2020 to assist in the containment of COVID-19, and whereas amendments were made effective March 22nd, 2020 to the Township garbage bag tag program to permit 2 out of 4 refuse bags to be placed curbside without tags. And whereas the province of Ontario and the Township of Georgian Bluffs have commenced recovery phases and initiate related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now therefore, council of the Township of Georgian Bluffs approves return to the regular bag tag program effective June 15, 2020, including a returning tag on all curbside refuse to cover the costs associated with garbage collection service, and the staff are hereby directed to notify township residents of said changes. Do I have someone to move the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Councillor Barfoot, second by Deputy Mayor Carlton. Cassie, would you like to speak to this?
Sure, I can, and then Tyler might have some things to add as well. So we are at the point now where our retail businesses are starting to open up. And as staff, we felt that now that retail businesses are open up and it's easier for residents to get bag tags, we should put the bag tag policy back into effect. We wanted to give enough time to communicate this to residents, which is why we suggested June 15th. June 15th. And that's all I have to say, but I think Tyler has something to add as well.
Thanks, Cassie. Tyler, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Burley. Cassie covered a lot of the good topics there. Basically, this was a temporary relief. What we did was allow our resellers to put certain mechanisms in place to ensure public safety during their purchase. We do have a lot of numbers we can get into, but they're not all directly related to garbage bag tags. So I could go over tipping fees, percentage that we're forecasting of a loss, but in reality, we don't know how many garbage bag tags are actually going to the landfill. We know how many are being purchased, but as Cassie has outlined and some other reports, we won't know until a month down the road when we can convey our actual tags versus tipping fees. So at this point, we feel like everything should be in place to buy the tags safely, and that's the motion here.
I think it's time to do this, but my only concern I have is to make sure we get proper notification out there to the ratepayers to know they have to put tags on June 15th, just so we don't have a great big free-for-all going on. Now, I understand they're going to go through the media and so on, Cassie and Tyler.
Yes, and we've already gotten a ton of phone calls on this. So when the City of Owen Sound and Meaford reinstated their bag tags, we started getting a ton of phone calls. So the public is listening to the news, and I believe Brittany's planning on doing a media release for this as well. We'll blast it on our website and social media. The signs out front at the arena and at the municipal office are supposed to be coming live later this week, early next week. We can put it there as well, and we'll do our best to communicate this over the next week and a half before it comes into effect again.
Thanks, Cassie. And since we are live, and I'm quite sure we have many media people watching our wonderful council meeting, that would be a great opportunity to put this news out to all our ratepayers. So we've no other discussion on the motion. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thanks, Brittany. We have another add on the agenda, 17.4. Cassie, she wants to talk about her dog tag.
Yes, so thank you. Dog tags have become a bit of a hot topic at the office the past week or so. So just to familiarize you with the process, each year we invoice for dog tags. So in January, we sent out the invoices for the dog tags. Per our fees and charges bylaw, if you do not pay for your dog tag by May 15th, we add $10. So we did that. As Treasury staff, we did that. And we're getting quite a few complaints from ratepayers about the $10. I mean, we receive complaints every year about the $10. That's not unusual. But what people are upset about is that our office was closed and we still charged the $10. So I'm kind of looking for council direction on this. So my rationale for adding the $10 was that our fees and charges bylaw says to, plus the invoices went out in January, 3 months before the COVID pandemic struck. But we have a lot of ratepayers upset about the $10 and the fact that they couldn't come in to pay their dog tag, so they feel we should waive this charge. So, yes, I'm looking for council direction on the topic.
Thanks, Cassie. I tend to agree with your thought that maybe we should, in this particular case, waive the $10 fee, but I see hands all over the place. Councillor Deputy Mayor Carlton first.
Thank you. I guess my comment, at first I thought that 3 months at the beginning of the year would be plenty of time for people to get that paid. But how many of the people complaining could be seasonal residents that are coming back to their cottages now and therefore weren't back here earlier, who would have normally gone into the township office to pay there? How many would be affected by that? Is that a concern even?
That's not really a concern of mine. Some of the names I've been dealing with are quite familiar, not seasonal people. It's hard to say. I mean, the biggest complaint is that they couldn't come in to pay it, so they didn't. And then it's also brought about the fact that we don't offer online payments for this. I will tell you that this whole issue has shoved online payments to the top of my to-do list, and it's something that I've been working on for the last week, and I'm currently gathering all that information for that, and I hope to bring something back to council in July, but it doesn't help us now. So, yeah.
Okay, Councillor Colburn.
Yeah, I was just going to speak in support of waiving it for this time. I think as much as we give people notice, most people leave it till the last minute to pay these things, and at that point, pandemic would have taken over. I'm just wondering, though, if that's going to mean you have to do any refunds for people who aren't complaining and will go ahead and send in the extra $10.
I would have to take a look and see who actually paid the extra $10. We've had a lot of people remit their dog tag fee and say, I'm not paying the $10, which I find a little bit frustrating because, like, you remitted the fee. So, like, this is just you not wanting to pay it. I don't know. I see both sides. Each year, dog tags is a hot topic. And every year when we apply it on May 15th, pandemic or not, we have those people that refuse to pay it. I do think we need to look at our dog tag process, and I do plan on bringing a report back probably end of summer in the fall on what we're going to do for dog tags in 2021. But we need to deal with this $10 now and what we're going to do for this year.
Thank you. Before I go to Councillor Barfoot, Cassie, we'd have to bring a motion back to waive our fees by law. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'd want to do this by motion, which isn't a problem. We could bring it back June 17th, and as we continue to get the phone calls, we'll just let them know that council decided to waive it.
Okay. Councillor Barfoot, go ahead.
You said that the bills went out in January, was it?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, and they weren't due till May the 15th. I file my bills according to when they're due. May the 15th, I drove over to the township office and deposited my check in the box out front. But I think it should be set up online because I would have, I could have paid it. But I'm not going to pay it 5 months ahead of time. So I would say set it up that they can pay it online.
Yes, and I am working on that. I've always been hesitant to do online payments because of credit card charges. And we'll get into this when I bring my report forward, but the company is going to charge us 3.5% to accept credit card charges. So what I'm currently working on is how do we charge that to the residents so that the township doesn't have to pay for that. And that's currently what I'm working through with our supplier because I'm not willing to pay 3.5% for someone to use their credit card. So that is something I'm working on, and it's unfortunate that COVID struck and I didn't have this mechanism in place, but we're here now, so.
Thanks, Cassie. Grant, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess to the point there too, I do believe going to the online payment's going to be beneficial for a lot of things, I would suspect, down the road. I can't believe we're having to have a conversation about $10. those same people probably able to buy a case of beer. So I'm in disagreement. I think they should have to pay the $10. So we've had 6 months to pay your bill. We have a mailbox at the front. You can deposit a check or cash if you want in an envelope. I think they should pay the $10. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Grant. Deputy Mayor Carlton.
Just a question about the letter that goes out. Does it say that this is not due until the 15th of May, or is that actually due and payable when they receive the letter?
I would have to check that, Sue. I don't know off by heart. I do know that we put a note on the bottom saying if you don't pay by May 15th, you do get the $10 added. So I guess technically we're saying the due date's not until May 15th, but
Okay. Councillor Barfoot, I see your hands up again.
Well, just comment to Sue. It said somewhere, I got it early. And it did say it was due May the 15th. But I have a question for Cassie. So if we pay online the way we pay our taxes, what percentage does the township have to pay for that?
so that's something different. So when you use online banking, we're not charged anything. So what I'm looking to do is have a link on our website that you click and you can do your payment through our website. But I wouldn't be looking at it for taxes and water because those are too big, and to add 3.5% is crazy. I'd be looking at it for more things like dog tags and facility rentals and smaller items like that. But like I said, I'll bring that forward in a report in July and let you know what that's going to look like. I've got all the departments thinking about what kind of payments they'd want to see online. But definitely dog tags is one we could easily move online if I can just work out that interest charge or that admin charge for credit cards.
Thanks, Cassie. We look forward to that report coming to us. Brittany, a procedural question. It looks like this may go one way or the other. Do you need to present us with a motion so we can vote for leaving the fees in place, or one that says we're going to opt out? I'm asking, how do you want to do this?
So really, we have a couple of options in front of us right now. We can prepare a motion on the fly right now to waive or not to waive. I see Cassie shaking her head. Our second option is a notice of motion at the June 17th meeting. So Cassie, if we would like to make a motion on the fly right now, I'll look for your assistance in wording. Is it simply just that council waive the $10 late fee as it applies to dog tags? Is it that simple?
Yes. So Britt, first I apologize for making you do a motion on the fly, but my concern is that the emails and phone calls that we're getting right now are insane. So I'd like to have an answer on this and not wait till June 17th. So my apologies. But yes, it is as simple as council approves waiving the $10, let me figure out the exact word for it, late fee or penalty charge for dog tags for 2020. Let me just find my fees and charges bylaw.
Cassie, Cassie, do we need to refer to our fees bylaw?
It is in the bylaw. If I could find my copy of the bylaw, that would be wonderful. Because it's not in its usual spot on my blackboard. Ugh. Got it. So our bylaw doesn't really say, it just has a cost before May 15th and a cost after May 15th. So Britt just put the $10 fee increase as stated in the fees and charges bylaw.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, if I could make a comment?
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'm wondering if we should change the fees and services bylaw then to reflect that this is a $10 late charge rather than an increase in the cost of the dog tag after a certain date.
Can I speak to that, Dwight?
Go ahead, Cassie.
Sue, this is part of a whole bigger dog tag picture that I want to look at for 2021. So we agreed to do a 5-year tag, an invoice for that 5-year tag, and it just so happens that that ends at the end of 2020. So I want to take a bigger look at our whole dog tag process, because to me, it's just not working very well. And that's something we could look at as part of that.
Okay. Brittany, do you have a motion for us?
Okay, I have a draft motion, and again, Cassie and council, please, your feedback is welcome if you feel it needs clarifying. That council hereby approves waiving the $10 fee increase as applied to annual dog tag licenses as stated in the fees and charges bylaw for the 2020 calendar year.
I'm totally good with that, Britt. Good job.
I was wondering, could we add due to the pandemic, refer to that so it's not there all the time, or can we change that later?
Yeah, we can certainly add due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So
that's the reason why I would support it.
As a support. Sure. Okay, I'm trying to make sense of my scribbles here. That council hereby approves waiving the $10 fee increase as applied to annual dog tag licenses further to the fees and charges bylaw for the 2020 calendar year as a support measure during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sounds good. Do I have somebody to move the motion, please? Put it on the floor. Do I have somebody move by? Moved by Councilor Sullivan, second by Councilor Colburn. Any further discussion? Kathy, you have your hand up?
No, she was moving. She was seconding the motion.
So we have a motion moved and second. Is there any other discussion on the motion before us?
Should we mention late fee in that? Waive the late fee?
It references a $10 fee increase as our fees and charges bylaw simply defines it as a fee increase. Is that correct, Cassie?
Yes, the bylaw doesn't define it as a late fee, so I don't really want to call it a late fee.
Okay, these motions that we make on the fly are nice. I think we've got the general gist of our motion, what we're trying to do here tonight. So Cassie, would you, whatever your name is, Brittany, would you please call a vote?
Would you like me to read the motion again?
Not really, but yes.
Okay. Okay, so that the motion that we are voting upon is as stated. That council hereby approves waiving the $10 fee increase as stated in the, or sorry, that council hereby approves waiving the $10 fee increase as applied to annual dog tag licenses further to the fees and charges bylaw for the 2020 calendar year as a support measure during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you.
Do we have any clarification to add? Any further comments prior to my taking the vote?
I see no hands up, so go ahead, Brittany.
Okay, it's a bit of a run-on sentence, but we'll work with it for now. Councillor Carol Bartlett?
Opposed.
Okay, Councillor Paul Sutherland?
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn?
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson?
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle?
Opposed.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton?
For, but only because I think it makes life simpler for staff.
And Mayor Dwight Burley?
For.
Thank you, and that carries 5-2.
Thank you. If we have no other add-ons, no other business, no other new business, I'll move on with our agenda. I have a recommendation that the Council of Township of Georgian Bluffs move into closed session at, I believe it's 5:59 in the council chambers with the interim CEO and acting clerk remaining in the room to discuss 18.1 minutes of previous closed sessions, May 20th, 2020 and May 26th, 2020, and 18.2 matters subject to Sisler client's privilege by bylaw enforcement orders. Who has somebody to move the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Thompson. If there's any discussion on the motion before us. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Councillor Kara Bartlett.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Greg Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries. And as has been our past practice with virtual meetings, please leave this meeting site and enter the closed meeting site. Okay, we are live. I'll pass it over to you, Mayor Curley.
Thanks, Brittany. There's an awful echo.
Okay. Please give us 1 second. We're having some technical difficulties over here. Okay, testing. Okay, much better. To resume our open session, I will take a quick roll call to reflect that all members are present in the meeting. So when I call your name, please indicate that you are present. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
Present.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
Here.
Councillor Kathy Moore-Coburn.
Here.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
Present.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Carlton.
Present.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
Present.
Thank you, and all members are accounted for.
Thanks, Brittany. We went in camera to discuss only what we went in camera to discuss, nothing more. So I'll move on. I have a confirming bylaw.
Mr. Mayor, sorry,
Yeah,
we
sure.
have one matter rising from closed session discussions.
Sorry about that. Would you read the motion, please, Brittany?
The motion reads as follows, that recommendation number COW 2020-03 as approved by Committee of the Whole at their meeting on January 15th, 2020, and further adopted by Council on January 22nd, 2020, is hereby rescinded, and that the Chief Building Official is hereby directed to notify the subject property owners located on Findon Street that the drainage issues as presented to Council are deemed to be a civil matter.
Do I have somebody to move to put the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Carlton, second by Councillor Thompson.
Also moved.
Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Brittany, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as presented. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
for, but I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Carol.
Should we mention in there as per legal advice or something? So that the kids know we have got legal advice on it?
We can amend the motion to read so yes. Alternatively, we can include that in correspondence sent to the affected property owners.
I would feel more comfortable if it was mentioned in there that we did seek legal opinion.
Is that council's wish?
I would agree with that. Yep. See heads nodding yes.
Okay, the last sentence, being the second line of the motion, has been amended to reflect the following: that the chief building official is hereby directed to notify the subject property owners located on Findon Street that the drainage issues as presented to council are deemed to be a civil matter, further to legal advice as received by the township.
Thank you. Is that acceptable, Councillor Barfoot?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Carry on to vote, please.
Okay, so when I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion as amended. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you, Brittany. If there's no other business, I have a recommendation that bylaw 2020-55 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on June 3rd, 2020 be read a first, second, third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed to the corporation, and endorsed in the bylaw book. Do I have somebody to move the motion, please?
I will.
Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Sutherland. Is there any discussion on the motion before us? Councillor Colburn? No. 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 I see none. Brittany, would you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you're for or against the motion. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson.
For.
Councillor Grant Pringle.
For.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton.
For.
And Mayor Dwight Burley.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you, Brittany. Before I ask for adjournment of the meeting, I just want to confirm our next meeting of council is a closed meeting for CEO interviews, Tuesday, June 9th at 4 o'clock. Am I correct in saying that, Anne-Marie?
You are correct. You should be receiving a invitation from the Phelps Group for that.
Okay, I just want to make sure council is aware of it, and hopefully all council members can attend. We do have a scheduled meeting on the 9th and 11th for CAO interviews. Saying that, and our next committee of the whole meeting is June the 10th, which we will have at 4 o'clock. Is there, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Moved by Councillor Colburn, second by Councillor Sutherland. Is there any discussion on the motion? Brittany, will you take the vote, please?
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate whether you're for or against adjournment at 6:35 p.m. Councillor Carol Barfoot.
For.
Councillor Paul Sutherland.
For.
Councillor Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Councillor Ryan Thompson,
4.
Councillor Grant Pringle,
4.
Deputy Mayor Sue Carlton,
4.
and Mayor Dwight Burley.
4.
Thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
See you later.
Night, everybody.